Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Core Productions Deep Dive TV Podcast with my co-host Stacie here talking about Under the Dome, Season 1, Episode 5, titled Blue on Blue. The episode's description reads as follows. When friends and family from outside the dome come to visit, Barbie learns the military's plan to destroy the dome with a missile. The episode was written by Brian K. Vaughan, who, of course, was the executive producer on this series and the showrunner at the time for at least the first season and the first couple episodes of Season 2. It's based on a book by Stephen King. The episode is directed by Jack Bender. Jack Bender again.
A Jack Bender episode.
Yes. Before we go any further, I'll tell you a couple things. One, this is not for free podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out, and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please follow, and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to our channel. All right, so I have a shout out. Not anything recent.
Okay.
But Ashley Wright, when we were originally talking about this episode, talked about...
2 years ago.
Yes. We were a little confused about the meaning of blue on blue.
Uh-huh.
And he said, blue on blue generally refers to police military units firing on friendly units. One example would be two military units firing on each other when both are in hidden positions. Initially, you don't know that they are on your side and think they are the enemy. Both start firing with the intentions of defeating the other. Sometimes mid-action, someone will realize and shout out blue on blue when the action will stop when confirmed. Sometimes they don't realize, and afterwards you find out you've been defeated people on your own side, which fits both into what the military is doing in this episode and the story that Barbie eventually
ends up Barbie does tell a story that makes a lot of sense with that title. But I still don't feel like it describes the episode very well.
Yeah, I get that. All right, so... let's dive in. What's your thoughts on this week's episode?
I enjoyed this one. I think it's a fairly strong episode. It feels like we have a cohesive story. I liked Visitor's Day, and then suddenly halfway through we're like, oh wait, this is a bad thing. And then they think they're going to die. And of course it's hard to watch it knowing like nothing's going to happen and try and watch it from, you know, those lens that you don't know what's coming. And just like, but if you put yourself there, it's very dramatic. You know, we have all these people, and what are they doing? And they might die. Of course, they're probably not going to die because it's only the 5th episode, and we know there's 13. But...
So, I like this episode. It's a good episode. I think it should have been a two-parter. Because I think
it could have handled that, yeah.
I think there's things in here that could have been expanded upon.
Yeah. And
we could have done a little bit more with within the episode. But what we're given, it's pretty good. It is an example of one of those quick plot points that we're just throwing away.
Right.
That I brought up a bunch of different times. It's not the worst example. That would be the next episode. But yeah, do we have anything else to say before diving in?
There's a ton of people in this episode, both one-off guest appearances because of Visitor's Day, uncredited listings, so I'm going to have a lot of people to shout out as we go.
All right. So the episode begins with Joe and Nori. Joe's gotten Nori up to explain some things about the dome. He brings her to see a bunch of monarch butterflies that are all over the dome. It's basically a very creepy but beautiful image of these monarch butterflies just covering the outside of the dome.
Yeah, this is our first reference to the monarch, which will be a theme that carries throughout the story.
Mm-hmm. Angie, meanwhile, is still sleeping, soaked in the shelter when Jim comes in. She thinks he's there to help, but
he apparently just left her there all night.
Yeah.
Which is creepy.
Yeah. She thinks he's there to help, but he's very much not. She tells him about his son, Junior, and he hears a honking and tells her he's got to think on things. So he's basically not going to help her.
Because he doesn't know what to do. Because he doesn't want his son to get in trouble for this. He doesn't want to be associated with what his son did. And he knows if he lets her go, it's all going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I don't think he wants to keep her locked up. He just doesn't know what to do instead.
Right. And at this point, Jim is not actively murdering people. So he's not going to do anything to her now. So yeah, her situation is not any better. Jim goes upstairs to find Lester is the one honking. He has apparently received a message from God, or at least he thinks so.
A message he heard through his hearing aid.
With the word is Moab. Jim's not impressed and warns him to stay away from him. Lester turns up his hearing aid and hears the message.
Yeah, and he tells us that Moab is a wicked place and it's in the Bible and all this, and I'm not religious, so I don't know that story. But we'll soon learn that that's not what he's hearing.
Yeah, I gathered that's not what he's hearing from the get-go. But Barbie is waking up in his car because he got kicked out by Julia.
Which is still on the McAllister farm, crashed there.
Yep.
So he's right where Joe and Nori and the butterflies are at.
And he sees the monarch wall of butterflies. Barbie touches it, and they all fly around. And the military is revealed behind the butterflies. The civilians are being bussed in. And Barbie's really confused by this. And Nori says, haven't you ever been to camp? It's Visitors Day.
Yeah, which is why I thought this episode was called Visitors Day. I don't know why I thought that. There's our credits. We get our first listing right here. Joe recognizes his cousin Frank getting off of the bus, coming to visit him. This is an uncredited listing. Frank is played by Charles Allen Radcliffe. This is his only acting credit, but he does have a couple of self-credits. It seems like something to do with video games he's involved with. We also have uncredited listings for Joe's parents, which they never actually called out in the episode.
That's kind of weird.
Maybe a line got cut. I'm assuming they're right there with Cousin Frank.
Right.
Since this is their house that Frank's getting off the bus at.
Right.
Joe's mother is played by Julie Kendall. She's in one episode of Cobra Kai, an episode of Burn Notice. Joe's dad is played by Chip Lane. He's in one episode of Found and 2 episodes of Manhunt.
Nice.
And again, those are all uncredited listings because they don't actually talk to us.
Julia gives a news report after the credits about people being bussed in. Jim sits on his couch and tells Junior that they need to talk when he comes by. But Junior is busy with what's going on because he's now a newly appointed deputy.
Yeah, he is in uniform in this shot for the first time. Big Jim during this is looking at photos. Remember last time I said that we supposedly had young Junior in that episode, played by James Alcorn, and he's in this episode and the next one as well. Well, this is our only time we see him in this episode. It's in a photograph. So, I don't know. I recall seeing this kid in scenes, and I'm confused that 2 out of his 3 episodes now, he hasn't actually been in any scenes. But this is where we get him, is in a picture.
So, Jim, surprised about all the situation, authorizes him to get some help, some more deputies, maybe Carter from his year.
Right, so it's Jim who suggests Carter. We already know Carter is a really horrible person, so he's going to become a cop. Good for him.
Yay. Junior says he needs to get supplies from the shelter. In other words, he wants to visit Angie, make sure she's okay. Jim says, when I tell you to do something, what do you do? Junior starts to protest, and Jim just yells out, now.
Yeah, okay. So Jim shuts it down, but doesn't tell him he knows yet.
Right. I love Dean Norris and all, but his delivery of that now was kind of hilarious to me. He's a great actor, but he just didn't quite pull that line off without me laughing. Joe and Nori head to the bridge. She's excited to meet his parents and basically tell him that he's shacking up with some lesbian lovers. Barbie observes them, and Linda drives up and recruits him to help keep people back from the dome.
Yeah, she's like, nobody can touch this dome, no matter what. That's the direction he's helping. He puts up some police tape, and immediately what happens? Rusty shows up. This is our last appearance, by the way, of Josh Carter as Rusty, Linda's fiance. Rusty shows up, and immediately Linda crosses the barrier and touches the dome. 5 seconds after telling Barbie their main objective is to keep anybody from touching the dome.
Yeah, she goes right under the tape and hypocrite. But anyway.
She touches it, and then they kiss right through the dome. So she kisses the dome.
Get a room, you two.
You're not doing a great job of convincing people not to touch this thing.
Right. Bill asks Julia if what they are hearing is true. She hears a transmission that she doesn't understand what it means, but it's pretty obvious to me what it means.
Yeah, they're just getting a bunch of numbers. It's pretty obvious because you've watched the episode a few times and you know where these numbers are leading.
All right, fair enough.
They don't know what the numbers mean yet. She wonders if Peter's going to show up today because remember she still thinks he's alive and just left her.
Right, and Phil's basically like, nah, he's gone, fam.
But
she's like,
he doesn't know he's dead either. But
right.
He's the one who told him to, skip town, so.
Yeah, so he doesn't think he's coming back, but she's like, well, he has to come back for this, right?
Oh, we hear a news announcement over the radio, and then we cut to see him, and this is Jeff Glor playing himself. Jeff Glor is a news anchor for CBS. He did the Saturday morning news and a CBS mornings show. So he's playing himself here, doing a broadcast about the whole story about Visitors Day.
Crucially, this is happening on the other side of the dome.
Right.
We're actually seeing from that perspective, which we don't usually get a chance to do.
And then we have Bullhorn Soldier. He's played by Nick Madrick. Nick was in one episode of Sleepy Hollow and The Taking of Deborah Logan. And Bullhorn Soldier gets on the bullhorn and starts directing the families, giving them instructions on how Visitors Day is going to work. And very importantly, tells them, if you have a tablet in your hands, because we're advertising for a tablet now, by the way. Like, we see these tablets, we see the name brand. There's a lot of advertising in this series. If you're holding a tablet in your hand, don't touch the dome. And it's funny because, like, nobody does. You think somebody should have tried touching the dome during all this.
Right.
But it doesn't happen.
We hear Rusty talking on the other side, and Joe, meanwhile, is looking for Angie.
Rusty shows Linda. They're on the cover of People magazine.
And
it's a big deal.
Yeah, Linda's all excited. Joe's looking for her sister, thinking she has to show up for this, right? Nori spots someone with her name written on a piece of paper. She doesn't know this person. It's a man. And the piece of paper, he basically writes that he is her dad.
Yeah, so this is the character of Michael, who is telling Nori he's her father. The only problem with this is she was always told she had an anonymous donor. Her mothers didn't know who her dad was. It was just a sperm donor, and why is this man here saying he's my dad? Michael is played by Gary Weeks. He was in 8 episodes of Outer Banks, 3 episodes of Resurrection.
Yeah, and he has baby pictures to prove that he is actually the father.
Right. He has baby pictures of Nori, including a photo of him with Alice, meaning they were in a relationship. This is her father. Her mom's been lying to her whole life.
So, here's my issue, and I'm actually not sure. I don't remember. Do they deal with this after this episode?
I don't think so. I think this was just a matter of a reason to get Nori pissed off and mad at her mom.
That's kind of a big bombshell just to drop for that reason. There should be more exploration of this than there actually is.
Well, to be fair, like, her moms aren't going to be around much longer.
Fair enough. I mean, one of them is still going to be around.
For a little while. Like, yeah, things move quickly for these people, right?
Right.
They're not going to care about Visitors Day much longer. I don't think we ever even care about the fact that we don't see Rusty again.
Right.
It's just like the outside world's gone after this. Nobody comes back ever, and we don't care.
Lester, meanwhile, is acting like a crazy person and goes on and on about Moab before Jim basically takes him away. Phil sees his sister. Julia does not see her husband. Linda can't bring herself to tell Rusty about his brother, which she's telling Julia about this. She doesn't know how, but Julia thinks that she does. That she basically has... She naturally will know how to tell Rusty the truth.
Yeah.
Is what she's saying.
That Freddy is dead.
Yep. Alice and Caroline find an emotional Nori, who then runs off. She is not very happy with them. Julia talks to Barbie. He tries to apologize, but she says he doesn't blame him for her husband's bad decisions, but she does blame him for not telling her the truth.
Yeah, and she says, if you want to make it up to me, help me keep an eye out for Peter, because he must come today, right?
Yep.
I don't think Barbie's going to spend too much energy looking for Peter.
No, I don't believe so. She sees a woman who holds up a letter.
This woman is Mary, and there's no listing for Mary. I couldn't figure out who this woman was, credited or uncredited, out of all these freaking credits.
So it turns out to be her sister-in-law. With a letter. The letter says he's sorry, and she deserves better. And Julia takes this as him not even having the balls to write, bring his own Dear John letter.
Right, so she thinks this is a Dear John letter because he left. Really what it is, it's basically his suicide letter.
Yeah.
This was him saying, he said, I know this is confusing. I'm sorry. Tell Julia I said sorry.
Yeah.
This is what he wrote to his sister. Now here's my question. If the whole point of this was for the insurance money, why are you writing a suicide letter?
Well, he doesn't actively say that he is killing himself.
I know, but sending a letter saying it's confusing and I'm sorry doesn't look good for your case that you were murdered and didn't commit suicide.
Fair enough. So we see Dodie communicating with someone through sign language.
This is her mom. Dodie's mom's played by Ellen Rice. She was in a bunch of shorts. Nothing particular caught my eye there.
Annie Grinnell, that's the name, right?
Andrea Grinnell is back for this episode. She's talking to her son. Andrea's son is played by Ed Ricker. He's in one episode of Revolution, some B-horror movies on his IMDb.
Barbie stops her, and Junior is wearing his new uniform, tells her to leave her be. Linda tells Rusty about his brother, the fact that he's very, very dead.
Yeah, and did it... Rusty noticed that Freddy wasn't here on Visitor's Day? Did he have said, hey, where's my brother?
I figured that would be the natural thing to do.
Like, why is Junior and all these other teenagers in uniform?
Right.
And where's my brother?
Yep. So Joe catches up with Nori. She always thought she'd be able to meet her past, basically her dad, but not like that. She basically thinks that he's just trying to get on TV, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, and how did he even know they were there? Like, I get that, like, Linda and Rusty are on People magazine, but the media knows that Nori's family's here? That seems very random.
Yeah. I Nori is cute and all, and her family is nice and all, but does the whole world know about the three of them?
Right, they were just passing through town. It's not like, it's not like we got news interviews happening on Who's Inside.
Right.
They're not even talking to them.
Right. So Ben finds them, mentions the outside world is not handling the dome thing very well. In fact, they almost went to war over it.
Yes, this is the return of Ben. We haven't seen him in a couple episodes. So he's back, played by John Elvis.
Nori is not impressed with the fact that the adults are handling the situation.
I love that line. She goes, sounds like the grown-ups have it all under control. I love Nori's attitude.
Yeah.
But also, this doesn't feel like something she'd say. Because I'm pretty sure she sees herself as grown and wouldn't refer to the grown-ups.
Gotcha. I don't know.
So I love it, but at the same time, it feels a little weird.
It fits in with her general attitude of cynicism at a young age.
Yeah.
And, I kind of agree with her. But anyway, Barbie recruits Dodie to read lips after he is basically...
He witnessed her doing sign language with her mom, and he's like, can you read lips as good as you can do sign language? And she's like, maybe.
What's in it for me?
So, yeah, he takes her, and they go talk to Young Soldier. Young Soldier is played by Rashim Shabazz. He was in the 2010 film Blood Done, Sign My Name.
Wow. First of all, he has a really cool name. Second of all, that's a really cool title for a movie.
Yeah, and all those words came out of my mouth in one take. I'm impressed.
I am also super impressed. So, he flashes a medallion at this military officer, and basically this officer tells him what's going on. Once they leave...
Yeah, so he's willing to talk to him because of this chip. And Barbie will explain this, that the kid recognized him as a jackrabbit and has respect for him and thinks he's a hero. So he tells them what he's not supposed to tell them, which is that the orders are they're pulling out. He doesn't know what's going to happen, but they were told they are never coming back. And something bad is on the horizon.
I think they were less clear about that they're never coming back. It was more like... don't expect to come back, which is basically the same thing, but it's a little softer.
Yeah, but the point is, like, the military's been kind of perimetering this place, and now they're told, this is it. We're done.
So Barbie realizes what Moab means, mother of all bombs. It could work, but it would kill everybody inside also. Barbie realizes that Visitor's Day was about saying goodbye.
Yeah, so that sucks. Sucks for them. It's pretty bad news. But it makes sense. And it totally makes sense that the military would be willing to sacrifice these people to shut this down because they don't know what it is. They don't know where it came from.
Well, specifically, they are mentioning the fact that the dome seems to be messing with the outsides.
Right. They talk about the butterflies and it's the electromagnetic fields, and it's bad. So the government's panicking and they want to shut it down.
So Barbie ends up talking to Jim and Julia, and they all quickly realize the dome is going to be attacked at 1:15.
Right, by interpreting those numbers that Julia heard on the radio earlier. 1:15 is the timetable, the bomb's going to drop, and they have less than 3 hours to figure out what to do about it.
Julia announces that they are all going to take shelter at the old factory over the radio.
The cement factory.
Yes.
Now, and I get that's why we're going, because we got to fit the whole town there, but do we recall that we were worried about even walking in it? Because it's so unstable and they thought it could collapse on them at any moment.
That's basically what Junior was saying in that episode.
So why do we think this is a good place to... I mean, I get that maybe the cement would help block the bomb, but wouldn't you be worried that the whole town's just going to cave in, the cement factory?
Yeah, probably.
We don't seem to address that aspect of it here at all. Before we were like, we shouldn't even walk in here because it's so unstable. A bomb is not going to help stabilize it.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of to counter that is that perhaps there's just not another place that could accommodate all these people.
Right.
that's underground.
And this problem gets worse later in the season.
Yeah.
When we just start hanging out in the cement factory, like, and conduct business here, and we forget that this place was supposed to be dangerous.
Yeah. So, Jim basically goes down to the bomb shelter and lets Angie go. And why? This is a bomb shelter.
So he tells her, we're all about to die, you should die a free woman. He doesn't want her chained up. He wants to give her a chance to go say goodbye to her brother and whatever.
That's actually not what I'm objecting to. I'm curious as to why Jim is not staying here.
Right.
This is a bomb shelter.
So he lets Angie go. She runs off, like, thinking he's a crazy man for saying we're all going to die today. She has no idea what's going on. Didn't she have a radio, by the way? Why doesn't she know? Anyways, it's a couple scenes from here. Jim and Junior talk. My notes are, it says Jim and Barbie. That's not right. Jim tells Junior what he did and that he let her go. Junior's trying to lie in that scene and be like, oh, I wanted to go to the shelter because I thought we could use it. And that's like, well, why don't you use it?
Right,
the
exactly.
whole town can't hide there, but you two sure can.
Right.
It's literally a bomb shelter. That's what it was built for.
Yeah.
You're going to be safer there than the cement factory.
Yeah.
Not that you'd want to be the only people left alive in this dome, but...
Well, why not? I mean, if, nobody else is going to live.
Although... The theory is if everybody else dies, that means the dome's gone, right? So you'd be rescued.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should have went there themselves. But instead, he's like, we got to go to the cement factory to help.
So people are led into the old factory. Julie and Barbie talk. He says that the only reason that the guy talked to him at all is because he thought he was some big hero. Barbie was involved in a friendly fire incident. He tells that story. Barbie thinks that perhaps this is the way he is meant to go out, under more friendly fire. Junior approaches the shelter. Jim tells him he knows about Angie and that he let her go. Okay, so perhaps this is why they never end up in that shelter, because Junior ends up running off.
He splits.
Yeah.
But Jim, you think he'd have just gone down to a place he knows is safe? It feels like it's in his character to just care about himself.
Yeah, it does feel like that, but perhaps this is a sign that we're actually wrong about Jim and that he does actually care.
Well, I guess. He wants to be a big shot, right?
Yeah.
So he wants everybody to think he's the best guy still.
Yeah. Bill isn't so optimistic about what's going to happen. He's at the radio station. He thinks they're all going to die, regardless.
And he's making a playlist for the last song anybody's going to hear. Dodie's rushing him. They got 13 minutes till the bomb's going off. She's like, let's get the frick to the tunnels. And he's like, just a minute. I have to set this to play for us so we can listen to the songs as we die.
So Angie goes to her house looking for Joe. She doesn't find him, but she does find Junior pointing a gun at her.
Uh-oh.
Telling her that they aren't finished yet. Jim and Linda talk. He tells her Junior's tying up loose ends. And she takes off and tells him that she is also tying up loose ends. I don't know what she's doing. I don't really understand what she does for the rest of the episode.
She realized that she's going to die either way, and she wanted to be somewhere that meant something to her.
So she doesn't think that this cavern or this old factory is going to help?
Either she doesn't think it's going to help, or she's just ready to die. I don't know, but where she goes is like this place that was special to her and Rusty, and she wants to go die there.
Gotcha. So Bill tries to talks to Barbie, and Barbie ends up giving back his grandfather's watch, which he lost by gambling.
Yeah, so this is something he had collected as payment for the loan sharks. He gives it back and is like, I think this is probably sentimental to you. I think he thinks they're going to die too. Everybody thinks they're about to die. I don't think anybody has any faith in this plan, to be honest. Barbie
says he might be getting out of that work. If he dies, he sure isn't going to be involved in bookie work anymore. He tells Bill good luck and basically says, go off and die somewhere. This scene right here, it kind of paints Phil and Barbie as kind of semi-friends, kind of. So, and the reason I'm bringing this up is the rest of the season and how it plays out. I'm not totally convinced where they take Phil as a character for the rest of the season.
To be honest, I don't remember a Phil story after this.
Yeah?
I forget what happens with Phil.
Well,
I know where Phil goes in the book, and I know that's not where we go.
Right. We'll get there.
Okay.
So Junior talks to Angie. He turns on the radio, and
he's looking at snow globes. This is where we learn Angie has a snow globe collection. That'll come up later. And he's playing with this particular snow globe of New York that he bought Angie when they were kids.
Yes, that will come up later. I just remember the scene, too. So he turns on the radio, which tells him that they are basically doomed, that they're all going to die. Junior apologizes. He says all he wanted to do was make her better. She gets close to him, kisses her forehead, and she cuddles up in his lap.
Yeah, so they get cuddly, and I know this is where you're going to be like, why? It doesn't make any sense. She should run from him. Here's my argument there. She's convinced by what she just heard. They're about to die any minute. She wants some comfort right now, too. And regardless of the fact that this dude's had her locked up for the last 4 days, they've been in a relationship for at least the last 3 months. They've known each other their whole lives. That's the only comfort she's going to get in these last 2 minutes. So she cuddles him.
That's a good enough argument for me that I don't even really feel like I need to make the argument. I think I basically agree with you. She thinks she's going to die, so...
Now, once they don't die, next week you can go to your argument of what the hell's wrong with Angie.
Yeah. So Barbie joins Julia. She has some alcohol that she thinks is terrible. She's drinking out of a paper cup, I think.
And this is a bottle that she got when she was working in Chicago from some big story. She was saving it for a special occasion. This is a special occasion. They're about to die. She says it's terrible, but she shares it with Barbie.
She still misses Chicago. She says she is glad that she got a chance to be here, though, and be a part of this whole dome thing. Barbie seems ready to confess about Peter.
Yeah, he's definitely about to tell her the truth, because, again, he thinks they're about to die.
Right. But Alice and Caroline come in. They're looking for their kid, Nori.
Yeah, they haven't seen Nori or Joe. They want to go back out and look, but they're stopped by Dell. Dell is one of the new recruits of Jim's, along with Carter. And Dell's played by Al Vincent. He's in 1 episode of The Walking Dead, 1 episode of American Horror Story, 2 episodes of NCIS New Orleans with Scott Bakula, and he's in Bill and Ted Face the Music. And this is the only time we're going to see Dell.
Yeah.
Also in this scene is another one of the recruits, and I don't think she even has a line, but that's Georgia. Georgia's played by Ariana Martin. She was in 2 episodes of The Haunting of Hill House, 1 episode of Stargirl. And again, Dell and Georgia are both recruits. We see them here. We never see them again, at least according to the credits. And it's very strange to me that we made the big deal about how we're recruiting people, and then we barely touch on them.
Right.
We don't bring any attention to them other than Carter. He'll be in a couple more episodes. But these are the other 2 recruits. We're not going to talk about them again after this. We're not going to see them according to credits. But Georgia, at the very least, was a much bigger character in the book. I don't know if you remember her.
Vaguely.
As well as all the recruits, is my point. Like, they played a huge part in the book, where they were just these evil, terrible people who, you know, are running the police now, and they were actively, like, murdering dogs and raping people and all of this stuff.
Well, the real police aren't that bad, at least.
The real police are not that bad. No. But this is all we're going to get of that in this show is here they are, and they gave this girl the same name, and that's that, and they're done.
By the way, I love that you knew what I was going to say earlier about the whole Angie and Junior thing. Had a counter argument ready for me, and basically shot me down before I even made it.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Joe and Nori are looking for Angie, but they only have 4 minutes to go before everything goes kablooey.
Yeah, so we skipped this. So the kids stopped Carolyn and Alice from leaving, the kid cops, right? They want to look for Joe and Nori, but they are not going to let them leave. Barbie and Julia sneak out that back door that Julia found with Barbie. They're going to go look for Joe and Nori. So Julia and Barbie leave the cement factory to look for Joe and Nori. Joe and Nori are looking for Angie, and Angie is cuddled up with Junior. All these people are about to die now. Let's presume for a minute that the bomb's actually going to, like, work. They're all going to die instead of being in the cement factory, all because they're looking for each other.
Right. Yeah. It seems like maybe they should not have all been doing that. But Dodie and Phil end up dancing romantically.
So the last song plays, right? We're 2 minutes from the bomb going off. The last song, the one he said he wanted to get up on the playlist, comes on, and it's Don't They Know It's the End of the World? And Phil's like, this is the best song ever to end our life on. And they start dancing, and it's so nice.
And then Linda runs up somewhere.
It's kind of a watchtower. It's by the water, and there's her and Rusty's initials are carved in it. So
among others.
I'm assuming like this is their spot,
right?
Right? This spot's important to them. Maybe this is where he proposed. We don't really get the story, but this is where she wants to be when she dies.
So Angie is still comforting Junior. Dodie and Phil end up confessing their hatred for each other.
Yeah, like you think they're about to confess that they're in love, and they're like, I hate you. I hate you too.
It's cute. So Nori and Joe end up running out of time. They sit on a bench and think they are about to die. They kiss. Boom! Best first kiss ever. And by the way, they don't die.
They don't die. The bomb goes off. The cement factory shakes. It doesn't collapse. That would have been funny if, it wouldn't have been funny, but that would have been ironic if everybody in the cement factory died because it collapsed and everybody outside was safe.
Yeah, that would have been funny. You're right. So Jim tells everyone to stay calm. He runs up the stairs. Joe realizes they didn't have a seizure. And Nori says, more importantly, they didn't die.
Yeah, I agree with her. That is more important.
Priorities, Joe. Linda gets radioed by Jim, and she says that everything seems to be okay, and she cries.
Yeah, because she didn't die.
Yes. Not yet, anyway. Barbie and Julia go to the dome. The outside of the dome is all destroyed. It's a beautiful image, by the way.
There's just miles of radius around the dome of black, burned out, dead zone.
And they end up holding hands while looking out at the wreckage.
Yes, because
Isn't
they
that
touch
romantic?
the dome, and the dome is still there.
Isn't that romantic?
But the dome saved them.
Yes. Yeah.
The dome serves its purpose of being a protective barrier to what's inside it.
Sure, but they wouldn't have been bombed if the dome were not there in the first place.
But I'm saying,
I gotcha.
What the dome's there for, which we're not going to know about yet. It's good. It's a good structure.
Yep. Yep. It's sturdy enough to withstand
the mother of all bombs.
Yes. So Jim puts his watch on something. It's a barrier.
He takes his watch off.
Yeah.
So he can approach the dome without carrying a battery.
Lester finds him claiming credit because he repented, and he wants Jim to do the same. And this is where he pushes Lester up against the dome, his base, and ends up killing him.
Yeah, hearing aid first.
Yes.
Against the dome.
As the hearing aid explodes in his ear, killing him. And Jim observes a single butterfly and the dome flying away.
Yeah.
That is where the episode ends, and that is Jim's first kill.
This is where we see Jim is a killer.
Yep.
And he's willing to kill. And I don't think we mentioned this, but earlier in the episode, before they knew they were going to die, Lester said, if you don't tell them the truth about our drug operation in 24 hours, I will. So that's why he's eliminated him at this point, because he thinks he's about to expose him. Which makes me very curious why he doesn't kill Angie. If you're willing to kill Lester because you think he's going to expose you, you're not willing to kill Angie because she's about to expose Junior.
I raised that exact point in the podcast or in the season 1 episode guide that we did. The rewatch sees that exact point. I raised that exact question. You did have a counter for it.
Well, we'll get to it when we get to
right.
it. I'm sure we'll see. And that's one of the things fun about doing something we've already done is I don't remember what I said. So let's see if we think the same thing.
Yeah, maybe we'll make the reverse argument of what we made before.
So let's see. We already talked about we had Rose, Andrea, Ben, and Carter all reaped in this episode. No, Ollie Dinsmore. We didn't see him at Visitor's Day.
Interesting. Nor was he in the cavern.
No, he wasn't in this episode at all. Let's see who we did. Again, there were a lot of people. We got all of these ones. All right, that's all the credited people. Got a bunch of uncredited people to talk about.
Okay.
All right, we had another TV news reporter. Played by David Shifter. He was in Kills, one episode of A Haunting. That's the series that covered a haunting on a haunting in Connecticut and a haunting in Georgia.
Oh, okay.
So he was in one episode of that. 2 episodes of Secrets and Lies.
Oh.
We have a resident, like Andrea Alcorn. She was in The Longest Ride, The Hunger Games Catching Fire. This is her only episode. Another resident who we'll see again next week. That's Christy Bucher. She's in 10 episodes of Band, 9 episodes of Sleepy Hollow. We had a child visitor in Huck Borden, his only episode. He was also in Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell.
Wow, that's sad.
We had a resident played by Frederick Carpenter, and this is his only episode of this series. He was in 6 episodes of The Walking Dead as a walker, and Anchorman 2.
Oh, okay.
We had a visitor in Caitlin Christian. She was in Tammy and King Richard. This is her only episode. a resident, one episode of Diaries, his only episode. Christopher Donald Gallagher was a resident. He was in one episode of Sleepy Hollow and one episode of Revolution. We had a teenager, Tegan Heesh, who was in one episode of Homeland and one episode of Revolution. We have a resident, Megan H. Jones, who's going to reappear in episode 13. She has 6 makeup artist credits, as well as acting in 2 episodes of Sid Roth's It's Supernatural. And we have a resident, this is his only episode, Adam J. Reeb. He was in 1 episode of Revolution, 2 episodes of The Lying Game. And returning, we had Nurse Chris, played by Rochelle Eicloff. We had resident Steve Baldwin, Adrian Eugene Graham, who last was credited as an orderly. They're listed as resident this time. I guess that's not as striking different as the one who was a firefighter that turned into military.
Yep.
Also returning was Mary Jo Jackson, Rob Coble, Joe Montani, David Pasqua, Will Smith, and Ben Yemba. We already talked about all of their credits.
All right. Anything left to say?
After all those names, and I apologize profusely because I'm sure I said 90% of them wrong. It's very hard to say people's names. No, I liked this episode. I liked it a lot. I love that we got some twists and turns, right?
Yeah.
Angie's free. What's going to happen with her? Jim's a killer. Still worried about Angie because of Jim, right?
Right. I mean, he just killed Lester. So.
And everybody's got to face the fact that they're not getting out of this thing. It's indestructible. Mm-hmm. So now what?
Right.
What do we do now?
Next week is the water crisis episode. That was insane when we first watched that episode in the podcast. And I'm going to have things to say about that one for sure. We're definitely doing next week. So yeah. Anything else to say before concluding?
That's all I got.
All right. We'd like to hear from you. What do you think of this podcast? What do you think of this episode? Stacie, we reached out.
I reached out on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy. You can join the Core Productions membership for 99 cents a month. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video as well as subscribe to the channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Core Productions, signing off.